Okay, so I'll just give some background on Freshworks, what we do, so that you get an idea, and also what AI features we have launched. So, as you, most of you guys know, that Freshworks founded 2010, and we are like 5,000 plus employees, and we have about 20,000 plus customer with more than 5K ARR and 67K customers across the globe, basically. Okay, which includes small, medium, large enterprise customers. And so these are the Freshworks AI features which we recently released using Ready AI. And okay, coming back to how we run the behind the engine of all these AI features, whatever we are talking about. So before I get into the story, I just wanted to tell you like a small analogy about what is blue pill and red pill. I think most of you guys would have seen Matrix movie, where Morpheus will give you a choice of uh, when to use. I mean, whether to you wanted to be in a reality or whether you wanted to be in virtualized world, right? In our use case, whether your use case wanted to fall under managed or self-managed. So that would be our reality what Morpheus will be giving us. So how you choose the pill. So every use case is considered as a pill, and you need to choose it right, else you will be getting into a lot of issues and challenges. How you run the uh, that particular product AI feature, right? So that is one important thing. So how you choose the right pill, basically. So if you see red pill, you can consider it as a self-managed or self-hosted, and blue pill you can consider it as a managed or hosted LLMs, right? So when I say managed or hosted LLMs, all OpenAI, Azure OpenAI, Vertex AI, or Bedrock. So all these platforms, the proprietary models are considered as managed LLMs, which are managed by the cloud providers or respective vendors, and they expose their services as an endpoint, and it's a black box for all of us, where we just go ahead and use those services. Whereas red pill is like these are where you do the groundwork. You build your own box, you have your own GPU machines, you build your own models on top of it, deploy your own models on top of it. You create your own strategies in terms of how reliable you want the platform to be, and also like there are examples where if you wanted to kind of fine tune certain models for certain use cases with your own data and things like that, how you can fine tune on top of the pre-trained models and host it, all those use cases you can consider it as a red pill, basically, right? So what all the disadvantages and advantages? This is very important here, because both has its own pros and cons. For example, for effective high usage, and when I say effective high usage, like for example, let's say there is huge number of API calls coming in for that particular AA feature, or there is a huge number of token transaction going back and forth as an input and output in those kind of use cases. So, in all high usage cases, self-managed is best, and where in some cases situations where you might need to secure your data, you don't want your data to move out of your network. You wanted to have it in the private situation, or whatever the transactions happen between your product and the LLM should be secured, or when it comes to the PA or GDPR kind of situations. So in those kind of situations, also self-managed is one of the best considerations. But there are some disadvantages, like for example, it you need the operational cost is on particular org, and also they those are these are not as um, in par with the dynamics of the market, where proprietary models are currently kind of occupying the leaderboard, right? So those kind of I mean, keeping up to the market. So that is one thing very important, and also the cost. You will be end up running a 24 bar 7 machine where your GPU is hosted and things like that. So you need to be very sensitive when it comes to self-managed. So these are the considerations you need to make sure when it comes to self-managed. When it comes to manage is minimal infrastructure. You don't need to care about what is happening behind the scenes. You just take the endpoint. It has the limitations. like it has its own RPM and tokens, TPM, tokens per minute and requests per minute. So you make sure you manage the capacity on what is you based on upon your use case and things like that, and you are good to go ahead and use it. And also you can move around with different models with very ease. And yeah, so that is what about. So when you want to quickly shift between the models, and if you wanted to avoid the operational cost and things like that, then it's better to go with the managed solution. That is the blue pill basically. So how I'll give you the economics. The economics of LLM hosting an LLM in production is very important because it's not just the quality, performance, and how it responds, right? I mean, accuracy. It also matters in terms of the cost. Whether it does it make sense to invest for. I mean, I'll give you an example, right? You cannot buy a Ferrari and you cannot stuck in traffic signal for 1 hour. So I mean, there should be a spend versus what you get basically, right? So I just give you this example where we are trying to compare self-hosted versus a managed. In terms of self-hosted, let's assume you are having a Llama 27B 70 billion model quantized version or whatever, where you are leveraging a G5 48x large with 8 GPUs, which costs around $16.28 per hour, and which comes around like 11,000 to 12,000 per month with operation, and you can add operational cost to that as well. So that comes around 12,000 plus or something like that, right? So in the same situation, let's assume you are. So when I compare with Llama to 70 billion with GPT Turbo 35 3.5 Turbo, the quality of the responses almost matches. So that's the reason we took this comparison. So let's say you are using managed LLM, and where you are sending a traffic of about like 5.4 million words, that would cost around 25K, right? Let's assume the use case. So a 10,000 customers queries per day with 1,000K input and 1,000K output. So that is around 2,000 total number of tokens, which costs you around 1,050 a month. So in this particular use case, for me, going towards a managed LLM would be the best option because I no need to. If you compare with the hosted versus cost versus the managed, cost is way different. I mean, you see huge difference. So you need to make sure you are going above the break even situation, and then only it makes sense to host the model on your premises. Else, uh, when it comes to the cost versus utilization, it doesn't match, and you're not giving benefit to the organization, right? So let's assume the other scenario where you are seeing 100K requests coming across, and you see per month charges going near to 10.5K, or if it goes beyond 10K to 20 to 200K or something like that, then you are seeing the cost is around 21K. So that's where you see the real benefit of hosting the models on your on premise. So this is just a comparison of one of the large model, but there are other use cases where it need not to be always LLMs. There are situations where you would use to host SLMs as well, the small language models as well. In those kind of use cases, there are other factors which you need to consider. What kind of edge technical technology use cases you would use. So in our organization, we are using latest cutting edge techniques to host this kind of strategies. We are not focusing just fractional CPU. We are also focusing on fractional GPU, where we can fractionalize one GPU into multiple slices and leverage the model so that we don't end up so we end up utilization of hardware in more precise manner, which gives us bucks versus I mean cost versus utilization, and it gives us a lot of uh, more feasibility, and also it helps us to run the environment in a stable way, right? So So fractional GPU is something which is a cutting edge thing. There are some other techniques where you call it as time slicing and all these things, but we are not using the time slicing, but we are actually implementing a fractional GPU concept here, where similar to how you do in Kubernetes with CPU fractionalization, where we can run a service with zero point 0.2 or zero point 0.1 kind of scenario. We are trying to do the same with the GPU so that we can optimize the cost versus utilization. Second technique what we are using is like model composition, where you can like I can give you an example. You can create a pipeline of models. Like for example, I want a model to summarize as well as convert that summarization into different language. So all end-to-end conversation can be converted in one pipeline, right? So I get a query, and that query will go through a summary of summary service using a specific model, and the summary output again goes through one set of another step in the pipeline where it converts that particular summary into a different language. So this is model composition where you can create a pipeline and ingest different steps or stages basically. So this is one more method, and also model multiplexing. Model multiplexing is kind of a hot swap of the models. You have the base model and you create the LoRa weights with on top of the base model, and so that you can isolate data specific to the customer's data, and you can hot swap the models on the fly so that you get only a specific set of data into the as a response basically, right? Because base model has the pre-trained information, but you want it to be very specific to the customer. For example, you don't want so let's say you have a telecommunication customer versus a e-commerce customer. So both are your customers, but you cannot respond the same way how you respond to a telecom customer towards a e-com customer, right? In those situations, you're gonna create this kind of layer, and you can hot swap hot load the using LoRa technique, model multiplexing, and you can you can keep your responses very specific to that particular customer. So these are the high level techniques what we leverage in our organization. And uh, yeah, I think uh, I would say this is how we host it today, right? And we call this as a fabric platform, where all these techniques are used for building our platform basically. Yep, that is pretty much what I have to.
Thank you, sir. Great presentation. All right,
Yep.
let's ask the audience to chime in now. You can ask the questions in the Q&A section of the Google Meet, and we'll try to answer them.
Sandeep, if I can ask, what are you most excited about in terms of what's coming next? Uh, Agents or whatever, or other kind of LLMs, other modalities.
Yeah, so to be honest, Prashank, every day is is exciting for us because, as you know, I mean, every day you get new models, and we keep ourselves up to date. So I just wanted to add, right? For example, I'll give an example. So we also support different frameworks to build our platform. Like we support like open source frameworks like LangChain, Llama Index, and also VLLM framework for posting our LLMs, things like that. And I see the code gets changed every week. So to match your platform with the frameworks, it's a continuous effort where our team goes through and build this particular thing. So it's always exciting. Yeah, it's and also it's too dynamic, as it's not like before.
Absolutely agreed. Yeah.
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 When if I can ask, the first question is Sandeep, what kind of challenges that you have solved so far, and what is on your roadmap? I mean, the moment I say what kind of, was it like text based one? So you have anything actions or probably anything. What are the things you kind of cracked and just deployed?
Yep. So see, so our roadmap is more towards agentic platform. So LLM using hosting the LLMs is one part to the business, but to have an end-to-end solution, you need to have other pieces to the puzzle as well, right? Like for example, let's say in agentic platform, you need to have agents and you need to have a proper RAG solutions in place. And also, we are also having a roadmap where we can make our customers build the agents by themselves. It's like self bot creation kind of techniques, right? So all these capabilities we are building in as part of our platform. So I think the future would be that. So because we are talking about LLMs hosting. I think it's all 1 year back situation. Hosting an LLM is something very unique or is
Mm,
exciting stuff. That
mm,
is 1 year back or 1.5 year back. But right now, hosting an LLM is just a part of the game uh, because we are we are towards a agentic world, or you can call it as uh, uh, bot world where everything is bought uh, and we are towards that actually. So I think probably after a year or so, we might go to auto agent kind of scenario as well. So where you just give a query and it does everything for you, right? There are already use cases right now which are available. Yeah, so it's exciting days. We are riding the wave. We will obviously come over it. Yeah.
So Sandeep and
Yes.
Bala, right? I think I have a question from the reliability perspective for both of you. Considering, right, you showed that comparison between red pill and blue pill. Uh, what have been the top reliability challenges for you as you deploy these models, build apps slash agents on top of them, and like maybe everything from the whole stack, right? So are there like bigger challenges at the hosting level, at the fractional GPU level, or are there bigger challenges at like the end user solution?
So it is actually both, Rushank. I mean, to keep it short. Before we choose a use case, we always go through a strategy study, how this use case would impact, and what kind of capacity we are expecting for this particular use case, and what is an fallback mechanism as well, right?
Hmm.
So all these steps are considered before we actually go to the preview or to the real customers, right? Because the capacity management is very important, because we don't want customer to ask a question and wait for like a minute or 2 minutes. It should be like interactive and things like that. So from the reliability standpoint, so for managed services, we manage the capacity in such a way that that use case is serving that particular purpose. When it comes to self-managed, even there we use different platform. I mean, we our platform is built on top of Ray and MLflow, all this open source technologies where uh, the auto scaling, the auto healing, all those capabilities are inbuilt.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Bala, do you have any insights from your experience?
Uh, See, hosting an LLM, we never been much challenging, I would definitely say, because I used an open source and also the closed source. We used bunch in terms of Azure, AWS, and everything. The only challenge was in terms of latency, in case if we have the more concurrency at the specific point of the time. That is when we had multiple other workarounds of just having another version of the branches, and yeah, I mean, it was not a major barrier. But it was more in terms of, okay, so if this is the route we have to follow it, what are the implications that falls in terms of the costing, the token costing. So that's where we actually fall in. Okay, so there are multiple workarounds, but how do you make sure to choose the one which is mostly optimized? So that's where we fall in.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you so much, sir. I think we have two questions from the audience as well for Sundeep, sir. So we have a
Okay.
question from Jack Martin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Agentic programming. Yeah, I think we do have, but predominantly right now, there are two kinds of agentic pattern. Again, even for agentic patterns, you have managed agents as well as self-managed, right? So nowadays, it's all like open source versus and managed. I mean, it's like you wanted to bake a cake by yourself, or you wanted to go to a bakery and bake a cake, right? So that is the situation we are in. So when it comes to the managed agentic situation, you have Bedrock agents, that is knowledge agents they call. When it comes to OpenAI, Microsoft, or Vertex AI, they have Vertex AI, that is Google's AI has their own agentic format. But I mean, right now I see the popular thing would be the assistants, right? That the OpenAI assistant. So that is one of the agentic patterns which, as a managed solution, what we have today. But for everyone's knowledge, apart from the managed agentic platforms, we also have Llama index-based agents solutions as well as LangChain-based agent solution, where you can create a chain or chain of prompts, or you can create a workflow with on top of the agents and things like that. So those are all the capabilities which are available as we speak today. So we can look forward to those frameworks, Jack.